अजीज़ान आपको आपके भाई आदिल राजा का सलाम पहुंचे. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to a very special episode of A Soldier Speaks. Today, I would like you to welcome a man who does not need any introduction, but for those who do need to know, please welcome Clive Stafford Smith. Clive Stafford Smith is a renowned British human rights lawyer. He was born in Cambridge in 1959. His career has been dedicated to defending the most vulnerable against the machinery of injustice. Clive has been educated at the University of North Carolina, at Chapel Hill, and Columbia Law School. Clive has spent his years on the front lines in the American South, representing over 300 death row inmates at organizations like the Southern Center for Human Rights and the Louisiana Capital Assistance Center, achieving a staggering 98% success rate in preventing executions. His work gained international attention in the BBC documentary 14 Days in May, which captured his desperate fight to save Edward Earl Johnson from the gas chamber. In 1999, Clive co-founded Reprieve, the groundbreaking human rights organization that deploys lawyers as superheroes for good to challenge torture, extraordinary rendition, and state abuses worldwide. When Guantanamo Bay opened in 2001, he was among the first lawyers to sue for access to its detainees, enduring death threats and accusations of treason in his quest for expose its horrors and secure the release of more than 60 prisoners, including every British resident held there. A prolific author, Clive has penned influential books like Bad Men and The Far Side of the Moon, earning accolades including the OBE for humanitarian services, the Gandhi International Peace Award, and the International Bar Association's Human Rights Award. Today, as director of the newly established 3D Center, Clive continues his fearless advocacy for civil liberties and the rule of law. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Clive Stafford Smith, who apparently right now is at Kabul. So we would ask you to please be patient with the glitches in the recording because of the bad connection at Kabul right now, and we'll ask Clive who's to blame for that. It's definitely not the Afghans, who are being portrayed as a pariah state, but Clive have got some very interesting insights into his fight, and he'll tell us why he is in Kabul, and he's been a frequent visitor to Kabul. So Clive, what are you doing there in Kabul this time around? Would you please let us know that? Clive.
Well, hello, Adil, and I don't know what makes you say all this gratuitously thing, which I only do because my mother would strike me dead from heaven. So I am here in Kabul, a number of things. One is some of the Guantanamo work. I'm incredibly pleased to say that just this morning I learned that the last Afghan, Mohammed Rahim, is being released on a prisoner swap. So that's fabulous. My main purpose here is on the case of Afia Siddiqui, which everyone in Pakistan will be aware of, which is proceeding really well. And I did nothing happened quickly in America, face it, but I very much hope that we're moving towards a satisfactory conclusion for her.
Yeah, so that's something very interesting, and I'm sorry, I understand you're in Kabul, so we're breaking up a bit, and I will hopefully be able to clear the signal. Otherwise, we'll have to redo the interview once you're the.
It is a miracle that you get a signal. The Wi-Fi is not great.
Yeah, that's a problem. Anyway, Clive, you're talking about you've talked about two aspects. Firstly, the Afghans are saying that the present Afghan government, they call themselves Amarat-e-Islami Afghanistan, they're successful in releasing all their prisoners from Guantanamo Bay. and you've been there so many times. Is that true? They got all their prisoners released from Guantanamo Bay.
They are, and look, it's a great tribute to the government here that they care so much about their citizens. And it's not just citizens they care about; they genuinely care about solving injustice. Obviously, they have some understanding of that many governments do not have, because they spend a fair time in Guantanamo illegally, just like everyone else. So they have a better perspective on how shocking this is than most governments. You know, sometimes think if we put Keir Starmer and Donald Trump in Guantanamo for two, they would take a very different attitude to human rights.
So, Clive, how the Afghans have helped you in the case of Afia Siddiqui?
Well, they're fabulous. The Afghan government, as with their own citizens, feel very passionately about other people in the same situation. And they particularly feel passionately about Afia, because, of course, many of the things that happened to her happened right here in Afghanistan. And indeed, you know, she's in America for an alleged crime, which, by the way, never happened, that was alleged to have taken place in Ghazni, Afghanistan. So if there's any place she ought to be put on trial, it would be here in Afghanistan. And they feel very passionately that her case is very unique. She is a woman of the Ummah, and they feel very passionately they have a duty to help in any way they can.
And do you believe that rather it's a question of comparison? Once you compare the efforts between Kabul and Islamabad, do you find any shortcomings or do you find any difference?
Oh, look, it's no secret, I've said this many times, that the government of Pakistan is utterly useless. And they're not useless because they're all bad people. I've had very positive interactions with the Attorney General of Pakistan, trying to work out how Pakistan can help the daughter of the nation, which is Afia. But it all comes down in the end to the establishment, doesn't it? And because there are some dirty secrets there, which, you know, I have to expose because they're not doing their job to get Afia free. And it's my job to represent Afia. It's not my job to represent anyone else. So we'll expose all of the dirty deeds that have gone on if they don't just do their job, get this poor woman out of torture she's going through.
So, Clive, by the dirty deeds of the Pakistani establishment, military-run Pakistan, do we take it that you're referring to the dirty deeds where the Pakistani military junta sold innocent civilians to the Americans for the bounty money? And if Afia comes out, those scandals or those realities could be exposed and they're afraid for that reason?
Well,
Is that
it's
true?
far from that. I mean, we don't have to look at Afia's case to know about selling people to the CIA, because President Musharraf boasts about it in his book, the amount of money that was made from selling people for bounties. But it goes far deeper with Afia, because Afia's case is unique because she was abducted on the 30th of March, 2003 from Karachi. And it was with complicity, obviously, from the Pakistan authorities. And I should say this because I know sometimes people believe that things are defamatory. All of this has been, what I'm about to say has been filed with the US courts. It's all in the court records. It's not yet public, but it will be public. So there's nothing that anyone can sue anyone for defamation about on this. But I have a secret recording made of one of the agents who abducted her. All of that goes on for quite a long time. It says exactly what happened. So that's helpful. There's another person who witnessed it as well, who was there, who talks about one of the Americans in Afia. Then, as I've made to the Pakistan authorities, I have an affidavit from a former senior ISI agent about all the goings on around that time and going through what we believe happened here in Afghanistan. I've also got a very senior American intelligence agent talking about all the mistakes they made, the Americans made, but with the Pakistanis. And I was in Washington just a few days ago talking to another former CIA agent who is helping me on the case.
Clive, once you look at the difference in the attitudes of the Afghan government and the Pakistani government regarding the welfare of their own citizens, what are your personal opinion? What is your personal opinion, and what are your comments about this difference in attitude?
Well, I'm going to pull out my passport because it says the same as your passport. Effectively, this is my American passport. The Secretary of State of the United States of America hereby requests all whom it may concern to permit the citizen of the United States to pass without delay or hindrance, and in case of need, give all lawful aid and protection. Something very, very similar to the Pakistan passport, as again I've pointed out to Pakistan many times, which gives a duty and an obligation on Pakistan to do everything they can to help their citizens. And, you know, this is not something the Americans take a ride. The Department of State says precisely that it is the duty both of the United States to look after their citizens. They just got their citizen out of Afghanistan a few days ago. It's the duty of Afghanistan to look after their citizens. They're getting, you know, Mohammed Rahim out. And it's the duty of Pakistan to look after their citizens. Now, it's not my duty, frankly, to look after anyone. It isn't legally. Now, it is my moral duty, and I'm going to do everything I can to look after Afia's interests. And I should say, I would be grateful if people would stop harassing Afia Siddiqui about what she's doing for her sister. Because frankly, I admire Fawzia a lot. I think she's done an enormous amount for her sister. If I ever was in trouble, I want her for my sister. But it's just wrong to go saying things to her because there's nothing Fawzia can do to control me. I'm not Fawzia's lawyer. I'm Afia's lawyer, and it's my duty to look after Afia's interests. And so I wish they'd support. I wish the government of Pakistan would support Fawzia with all the power they have to help resolve this issue. And we can do it in a nice way. We can do it in a nice way or a tough way. It makes no difference to me. And I want to get Afia where she belongs, which is in a hospital, so she can get the treatment for the dreadful things that have gone on for her.
So we take it that you were talking about Fawzia Siddiqui. Clive, how is it the case that you've said that the Afghan government believe that Afia is a daughter of Ummah and as a Muslim sister, they're supposed to help her out? But globally, the Afghan government are being, the Pakistanis in particular are trying to portray the Afghans as these pariah government and as a pariah state, somebody who's exporting terrorism. And of course, it suits Pakistan's narrative. But you are in Kabul right now. So what do you see around you in Afghanistan? Afghanistan?
There are two sides to that discussion. I first came here in 2017 when the Americans were occupying Afghanistan. And I was here for an Afghan citizen who was in Guantanamo Bay, who thankfully I had dinner with last night. And then it was horrible. It was dangerous, very difficult to get about. I couldn't leave Kabul. It's very, very different today. It's vastly safer. They're very kind to me, and they sometimes tell me I should take one of them along as a security guard, but honestly, I don't because it's so unnecessary. So on a first step, Afghanistan is safe. And I think for most citizens of any country, that's the number one issue that people care about. Now, we have, differences of opinion on other things, not about terrorism. I don't think the Afghan government is terrorists in any way. But, we have differences of opinion on women's education. But what does serve anyone's purposes on that is to stand on the touchline, screaming abuse. I very much want to help the Afghan government to improve what they do for all citizens, because they've had 45 years of warfare, and it's hard to come back from that. I'm just dictating to people ways, but I do want to help, because I think there are ways that we can all Afghan citizens. And I would encourage every other country. I mean, it is shocking to me that the Afghan representative in the UN is from the former Ashraf Ghani government. I mean, if ever there were a group of corrupt people, I think we'll agree that there was a number of corruption. There's a great deal of corruption going on at the time. That's madness, and we should recognize the current government of Afghanistan. We should work constructively with them. We shouldn't go lecturing them all the time. I had an interesting conversation with one of the senior people, who's a very sophisticated guy, brought up in New Zealand. And he recognizes that the West has its criticisms, and he said, yeah, we have our criticisms of the West. You know, we feel that the West doesn't treat poor people very well. Well, I'm on side with him on that. And he went on to say, we feel that we're not Muslim. You know, I think we're all allowed to be different things. But overall, we need to work together to make the world a better place and not try to undermine each other.
Thank you so very much, Clive. Thank you for joining us from Kabul.
Okay, my pleasure.